Welcome to Garden Sanity. I'm Laura, and this morning I want to show you how the woody lavender topiaries look now that they're fully in bloom. So these woody lavender topiaries came about from overgrown lavender phenomenal plants that I had planted back in 2014. And after hardly pruning them over the years, they became not only quite large and beautiful, but quite woody. So this year, in early spring, I finally bit the bullet and I removed all of the woody lavender except for two plants that had grown almost perfectly upright. Almost. I trimmed them up and decided to keep them as my imperfect woody lavender topiaries. 2 months later, they looked like this, with encouraging signs of fresh growth. And now here in mid-July, here they are this morning in full bloom. Do you see this? As I'm filming, there's a hummingbird. He was just there for a second. That's wonderful. It's only around 7 in the morning, and already we have some early morning bees having their early morning breakfast and absolutely loving this phenomenal. And who can blame them? I mean, first of all, the scent is absolutely intoxicating. And this has a really high content of essential oils. So whether you use it for crafts or you want to incorporate this into maybe making a lemonade, this works really well. Can't say I've done the lemonade, but I've definitely dried this and it has maintained its scent for years. So needless to say, pollinators love this, especially bees. Now this is one of the most hardy lavenders. It can withstand heat and humidity like no other lavender, which is really great here in southern New Jersey because right now it's only 7 in the morning, but it's already 80 degrees and the humidity is almost, well, I think it said 93%. I'd say it's closer to 576%, but that's kind of an unofficial estimate on my part. Here's the lavender in the other bed, and I'll get to some of these other plants in a moment. Now this is a lavender that I planted from the backyard, and I wanted to give it more room up here, and I did that on the other side as well. And then you can see why I call it an imperfect woody lavender topiary, because it's not totally straight, it's a little bit straight. Imperfect. Like we all are, right? And this is what the other side looks like. So you can see the woodiness and how it curves over. And what you also see is the plant that I told you was growing out from the bottom, well, it is growing nicely. And so some of these fronds right here are from that plant that's growing at the bottom, so kind of a bonus. Very nice. So not only does this lavender handle heat and humidity like a champ, but it also handles cold weather. It keeps its evergray color in the winter time, but it also handles rough weather. So this can have snow dumped on it and it keeps its color and it looks beautiful no matter what. And if you have more mild winters, it's like a nice evergreen plant, only, as I mentioned, it's evergray. Beautiful, right? So I mentioned that Lavender Phenomenal is one of the hardiest lavenders. So the zones, just so you know, are 5 through 9 or 10. It's super easy to harvest and dry. And like I said, it does great because it has such a high essential oil content. And also, whether in the ground or in containers, Lavender Phenomenal has a super long bloom time. And it's also disease and rot resistant because it handles clay soil much better than others. Many lavenders, in fact most of the lavenders that you'll want to grow, need sandy conditions, very dry Mediterranean-like conditions. And not that this doesn't, but it's bred so that it can actually handle a little bit more moisture and a little bit more clay. Now I'll link to some videos at the end of this video so you can learn more about this lavender and actually see the full process I went through with removing the woody lavender, pruning it back, trimming this into the lavender topiaries that you see here. Just everything I did to get to this point. But now, let me show you some of the other plants I added to these beds. This little guy is from Proven Winners, and they actually sent him to me to trial in my own gardens. This is a tiny quickfire hydrangea. So this is the smallest size in their quickfire line. I have some little quickfires in the backyard that get between 3 and 5 feet tall and wide. And this little guy is only going to get to be 1.5 to 3 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet wide at maturity. Now there's one there that they sent me, and then I bought 2 more for this bed because I wanted to plant them all together, sort of in mass, and see what that would look like all growing together. I thought it would look really pretty with some of the other evergreen shrubs I have here, and I'll keep the dried flowers on in the fall into winter for winter interest. And combined with the evergray of the lavender, I think that's going to be a very, very pretty combo. Now beneath the lavender on this other foundation bed, and behind the Kramer's Red Winter Heath, you see another tiny quickfire. And I bought this little guy too, just a little pint size, and I thought I'd try him back here. So this is going to be my own experiment, because tiny quickfire can be in full sun to part sun. So this area, you see it's in shade right now, it'll get sun, but it gets more partial sun throughout the day. Whereas in the other bed, it's more full sun in the morning, and then in the afternoon, it'll become more of a shade area. So tiny quickfire, to play on the word tiny, is perfect for the front of a garden border. Like if I wanted to, I could plant it right in the front. But it's also great to mass together, like I did here, planting them in multiples. You can mix it in with perennials or other plants, which is sort of what I'm doing over here for now. I may add some other things back here, but for now, I'm just leaving these. And it's also great for containers. So it blooms summer into fall, very long blooming, and the bloom begins early in the season. But I just planted these, so I'm not sure if I'll get any flowers this year or not. But the white flowers are absolutely beautiful, and they age to a pinkish red as the weather turns cooler into the fall season. Now these are hardy in zones 3 through 8. Now this little guy that looks like a bunch of parsley, which is what my husband said, what's with the parsley? This is actually Dicentra pink diamonds, also known as bleeding heart. And Walter's Gardens, which is the perennial arm of Proven Winners, they sent this to me to trial again in my own garden. So this is a Proven Winners variety. So this is not your typical bleeding heart. This is an Alpine bleeding heart, so it can take full sun to part sun. Now in the backyard I have some other bleeding hearts, and they're more part sun to full shade. So this is the one that Walter's Gardens sent to me to trial out. And so I planted this one just like with the tiny quickfires in basically full sun in the morning. It'll get part sun as the afternoon goes on and then be in shade the rest of the afternoon. And then I purchased this one that I put over here just to match in the other foundation bed. And it's going to be nice to have some bleeding hearts that bloom all summer and can take more sun. Now this is a very long blooming perennial. It starts in late spring to early summer, and it continues blooming throughout the season. Now I planted this not too long ago, and look at it. You already see a couple of the pink flowers on this one starting, and then look at these ones over here. You can really kind of see the two-tone pink flowers that this has. And the two-tone pink flowers combined with the blue-green ferny foliage is just stunning. And these will bloom on and off into the fall. Now here's what the plant looks like with lots of flowers, just so you can get a good idea of what it will look like when it's more established. Now Pink Diamonds is going to grow 16 inches tall to about 18 inches wide, and it's hardy in zones 3 through 9. And 2 other little plants I added in here, and they're little for now. These are called SunSparkler Wildfire Stonecrop, or Sedum. This is a ground cover, and it's going to be absolutely beautiful because it's going to take on reddish hues It's supposedly going to be mostly evergreen, and it's going to spread about 18 inches wide. And so I thought it would be nice to fill in this area underneath the lavender, next to the Kramer's Red Winter Heath on this side, and over here on this side, it'll be really nice. As I step back, you'll see again, it can fill in next to the Candytuft and kind of work its way around. And to fill out the bed, I added 4 Dusty Miller annuals, just because I'm not sure what else I want to put here. This gives me time to think until next year. So now let me give you a little bit of an overview of what else is in this bed. And I apologize because there's a golf course nearby, and I guess they're doing their landscaping, so not as nice as hearing the birds. So in this bed, I have 2 blue star junipers. There's one there, and there's one over there, and they love full sun. I have some that are planted in more shade, and I'm going to have to eventually move them because they're just struggling. These guys love full sun, and they obviously can take heat and humidity. I have 4 annual dianthus over here, and again, these are from the bandana series. I'll put the exact name on the screen. Except this little guy surprised me because he came back from a seed from last year's plant. So I was kind of surprised about that, but that's good. And these guys are just starting to kick in. Now that we're in the 90-degree range, temperature-wise, they're going to really kick in. The yellow ones spread like crazy. Then on the end here, we have this one, which is absolutely cute. Now, why are there stones here, and why does this juniper not look so great? This is a ground-cover juniper. I'll tell you why. The stones are here. By the way, there's now construction going on a couple houses down. So that's why I come out at 7 in the morning, so you can at least get a sense of the nice birds and calm, peaceful serenity until everything kicks in the summer. Anyway, the stones are here because rabbits tried to make a nest. And I caught them in the act, thankfully. And so filled up the hole, put some rocks here. The rabbit had actually broken off several branches, and that's why you see some of these holes, I guess, to make his little shelter. And I don't know what else he did to it because, you know, you got some brown here. I don't know, did he pee on it? I don't know what he did. But hopefully this guy will bounce back just fine. You still see remnants of the Cragford daffodils back there. Yep, they're still getting some sun and getting some energy for next year. Then you have the gorgeous Kramer's Red Winter Heaths, which are a beautiful evergreen in the summertime. And you still see 1 or 2 places where you've got the dried brown flowers that are done. And you also start to see little bits of bright green, and that's where the new flowers are starting to develop. And they'll bloom all winter. And I love this combination. This is the Kramer's Red Winter Heath with the Blue Star Juniper and the Japanese Helleri. Now what I kind of had to do this year was the Japanese Helleri was growing over this sprinkler head. And we're going to change the sprinkler head out at some point anyway. But what I did was I had to cut it back so that the sprinkler head could actually get up above it. It's a rather tall one that comes out of the ground. And so I cut it up a little bit, and it actually looks okay. I was a little bit upset I had to do it, but it's not too bad. And then this is the Candytuft. It's getting a little baked right now. This is its first summer in full sun, because usually I had lavender all throughout here, and the lavender stems and flowers would cover this in the summer, giving it a little bit more of a partial shade effect. Then you have our ornamental maple here. I don't know the variety, but it's very pretty. And then this is a false cypress, a Hinoki false cypress. And I absolutely love this plant. It's easy care. It's growing wonderfully well. You may have seen this in a video I did on what happens if some of your evergreen needles turn brown. I'll link to that above, and I'll link to it at the end of this video so you can see more if you have problems with some brown needles. It's nothing to panic about. And then behind everything, I've got some Silver King Euonymus. And that's just a nice background, especially in the wintertime when a lot of these plants go dormant. Now this is the other foundation bed, and it's pretty similar, starting with the background of the Silver King Euonymus. We also have an ornamental maple. And there's this cute little wee tiny quickfire. I love this little guy. I'm looking forward to see how much he actually spreads out. It won't be too much. Like I said, it's 1.5 tall, 2 to 3 feet wide over time. So we'll see, and want to see that before I add anything else. The Kramer's Red Winter Heath that I added beneath the topiary looks absolutely beautiful. This guy is happy in his spot next to the little SunSparkler series Sedum. I know, the bees are telling me that I'm overstaying my welcome out here. More Candytuft down here. Of course, that is the pink diamonds. This gorgeous specimen is a bowling ball Arborvitae, and wow, is he happy. Planted him 2 seasons ago, and the first season he kind of struggled a tiny bit at the bottoms, got a little bit brown, had to water him a lot. Now he just gets, you know, regular watering every so often. We'll run the sprinklers if we don't have enough rain. And look at that. I mean, it's just beautiful. And the foliage is, oh, it's just stunning. And this is not anything you have to prune. That's why they call him a bowling ball. Again, this is the ornamental maple, and you see there's still some seeds that haven't fallen off yet. And then over here I have the knockout roses, and they have not been doing so great this year. We had wildfires coming down from Canada, and we actually had some wildfires, well, the smoke came down from Canada. And during that time, the weather was gorgeous, but the air quality was horrible. And I don't know if that affected these at all. We also had some wildfires here in our area of Ocean County, New Jersey. So they were covered with what you see here, black spot. Now you'll also see the newer leaves are looking a little bit better. What I had to do was I cut about 1 foot off of these to get most of the black spot off. And I took a lot of the leaves off, but not all of them. Because if you take all of the black spot leaves off at once, when you have it really bad like I do, it's going to defoliate the plant, and the plant is going to be even more stressed because it needs leaves. I mean, that's part of, you know, plants need leaves. They need to get the nutrients from the leaves as well as from the soil. But you can see that the newer ones are doing better. What I ended up having to do is not something I love to do, but I did it and it helped, is I did a soil drench. And I did it, I think it was a Bear product. I'll put it on the screen. I can't quite remember what it is, but a soil drench basically essentially is this, is you mix it with water and you pour it around the bottom of the plant, around the drip line, so that the roots take it up, and it's supposedly helps with black spot. So like I said, the newer growth seems healthier, but I'm slowly going through, and I'm slowly, like, see this? I took a bunch of that off yesterday, and I'll do a little bit more in a few days. Like I said, I don't want to do it all at once. But they just, you know, they're blooming, and from a distance, if I back up, it's like, oh, look at these beautiful knockout roses you have. But boy, they took a beating this year. So if I can get them in gear maybe in the next, I don't know, during the month of July, you know, maybe by the fall I'll have absolutely picture perfect knockout roses this year. Now, I do have beautiful flowers on it, so don't get me wrong. And beautiful new buds. But they really got attacked this year. And what was weird is when I came out, after the few days we stayed inside because it was literally orange out here from all the smog and the wildfire smoke, when I came out, that's when all the black spot happened, and I didn't get it because it was only in the 70s and we didn't have any rain, and we didn't run the sprinklers. So I don't know. I don't know what happened. But let me show you this. Beautiful, right? So this is just a sneak peek because I'll be showing you this bed in a few weeks. But this is Rudbeckia Goldsturm. These are brown-eyed Susans. These I transferred from the backyard a couple years ago, and I will put on the screen what they looked like. They looked pathetic, and then the rabbits ate what was left of them. Well, last year 1 or 2 popped up. This year, look at this, they took off. And they aren't really even supposed to be blooming yet, but they've been blooming now since mid-June. Crazy. And I already have one of the Purple Sensation blanket flowers growing, which is really nice. But yeah, they're doing great, and there are rabbits around, so I'm kind of surprised about that. But I will give you more of a tour of that bed on another day. In the meantime, I wanted you to see what these foundation beds look like. I also freshly mulch them too, which makes them, you know, that makes anything look better. You could, you know, mulch around weeds and the weeds are going to look beautiful. So it's sort of an easy way to make your garden look nicer. And by the way, I told my husband if I ever want to mulch again when it's 90 degrees out to stop me. I mean, I don't know why I do this. Well, in this case I did it because with the digging up of the lavender, there was no mulch under where all that woodiness was. So I needed to get some new mulch down. This is playground mulch. It looks very brown, but it's not dyed, and it will fade to a nice grayish color, which will be nice. So there you have it, my imperfect woody lavender topiaries in full bloom, along with some wonderful plant companions that I'm trialing and see how they do as well. So watch this video next if you want to learn about your needles getting brown on your evergreens. And then this playlist will give you everything you need to know, not only about Lavender Phenomenal, but it'll also show you the ugliness or the beautifulness, if that's a word, of the woody lavender, depending on your mindset. Some people think it's ugly, some people thought it was absolutely beautiful. And until next time, happy gardening.